My name is Tiffany Dogie. I'm president and CEO of Children's Harbor, where we have 29 teenagers in foster care doing their very best to heal and rebuild their lives. And today, we are going to hit very close to home, body image. When you are a teenager, self-esteem is a minefield, and it's summer. I mean, swimsuit season drives a grown woman insane. And as parents, you don't know what to say, you don't know what not to say, you don't know how much of your own stuff you're passing on to your kids. That's what we're going to talk about today. How do you raise teenagers who understand their worth, whether or not they like what they're looking at in the mirror? So I'm so excited about our panel today. Ladies, I have waited a very long time for our schedules to align. And so let's start with some introductions so our listeners know who you are. Tell me your name. Let's start with something easy. What you do in your day-to-day life and why this conversation around body image and confidence matters to you, both professionally and personally. Alex, let's start with you.
I'm Alex Adele. I'm a wife, mother of 2 young girls, and I am an integrative nutrition health coach and founder of Balcony People, a premium wellness concierge dedicated to detoxing lives. And this conversation is important because we're raising the next generation, and I think we can do so much more as parents, as leaders, to build authentic confidence and really help people build that definition of what it means to them, not society.
Oh, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Following Alex is Kelly.
Yes, my name is Kelly Maple. I am a family nurse practitioner. I'm the co-founder and chief medical officer of Medical Anti-Aging, a regenerative medicine clinic in Fort Lauderdale. And I'm also the founder of the KM Health Collective, which is really an educational platform dedicated to helping women thrive through midlife. Super passionate about that. This conversation is important to me personally because I have a 21-year-old daughter, and I have navigated these waters, and I'm so grateful to be on the other side.
Oh, right.
And also professionally because every single day I have women who sit in front of me who have struggled, are struggling, and probably likely will continue to struggle with their body image. So really happy to be here. Thank you.
All right, thanks for coming. And Dr. Brandy's back.
Thank you for having me back. I'm Dr. Brandy Peterman. I am the founder and owner of Changing Tides Therapy, a mental health private practice. I work with children, adolescents, young adults, families, primarily in the mental health space and with family systems. This particular conversation is extremely important for me, only because I see this a lot with the youth that I work with. Mm-hmm. If we're going to talk about raising emotionally and mentally healthy children, we kind of need to understand the systems that are influencing them, and whether or not we are contributing to that in a supportive way. So building confidence, understanding social media, that impact and play on our girls and our boys too, super critical. So thanks for having me back.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw the first heat at Alex because you're a living, breathing supermodel. I had to separate my chair just a bit because I don't even want to be in the same frame. I don't even want to be in the same frame as you. You have danced competitively. You've worked in skincare and wellness, social media, all industries that are obsessed with appearance. So from the outside, people might assume body image has never been a struggle for you. So I'm interested in, has it? How has your lived experience shaped your relationship with your body across those spaces?
Yes, it has, to answer that directly, but I think everybody has body image things that they have to sort through. But ever since I was a young girl, my grandmother, she knew that I was going to get attention, and before I knew, and she was like, she would always tell me, not everything that glitters is gold. And that stuck with me. And I grew up as the only mixed girl. So no one looked like me. I was really, honestly, did not know like my outside appearance was what it was. And until high school, when I moved to an inner city high school or inner city area, and I was like, wow, I feel beautiful because other people look like me. And then, fast forward, I danced for 18 years, I ran track for 16, and I modeled for 10.
Wow.
So all those industries, as a kid, you're waiting for outside sources to validate you. you have to be number one in both,
Mm-hmm.
track and dance. And of course, modeling, you have to be selected by someone. And so that really carried on into my adult life. And as an adult, I grew up like thinking, okay, if I'm getting complimented or if someone's saying, yes, you're doing a good job, or no, you're not doing a good job, or you can do better, like my whole life experience was waiting for someone to approve it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had to really rewire my mind around that. And it wasn't until I was getting my esthetician license, early 20s, and I went through catastrophic experience where my skin, I got a folliculitis from a dirty instrument, and my whole face looked like a pizza party, literally. And so it took all of me to have radical acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, while I was getting my license, I was working for a brand called Clé de Peau. Anybody know Clé de Peau? So this was before my non-toxic years, but it's a Japanese brand, very elevated. All their products cost at least like $200 and up. And so I had to sell thousands of dollars worth of skincare with a pizza party on my face.
Mm.
And so luckily for me, I had already established relationship with some of my customers. And so they knew that there was something going on. But I still had to show up and do my job every single day. And I had to really look inward and really see like, okay, it's not, my face is just the entry point to who I am. And everything on the surface, I don't, it's not going to make someone feel less about me if I'm making myself come off as confident and if I'm making them feel good and heard and seen.
Wow.
So, and the other part was after having my first child, you know, the numbers on the scale are usually pretty intimidating for a taller woman
Mm-hmm.
because, you know, most people think that I weigh a lot less than I actually do. And when I was pregnant, I saw 200
Yes.
and I was like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
this is not cool. But I had to surrender and I had to be like, well, Alex, you are growing a human.
Mm-hmm.
And these changes are happening regardless because
Yep.
you're a healthy person and this is
Mhm.
what's supposed to be happening. And, you know, after giving birth, I worked so hard for the first time ever in my life to get my abs back. It took 3 hard months, but I reached a new level of confidence because I did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, like I had a goal in mind, I had a vision, and I stuck to it because I was disciplined.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that's literally like went through so many different challenges, but ultimately I felt like body image is fleeting. And if you understand who you are on the inside, that's really all that matters.
Well said.
And we're done.
That's a wrap.
Kelly, you bring a really unique lens. You're a family nurse practitioner. You're a mom. You're a aesthetics expert. How do you say that 5 times? Aesthetics expert. Okay, they don't want to know. Can you share a little bit about your personal journey, especially how body image played out in your own family?
Yeah, so body image for me has always been kind of twofold. Growing up, my father, I have a symmetrical face, and I know that I did nothing to earn a symmetrical face, and symmetrical faces tend to be more pleasing on the eye. Mm-hmm. And I grew up with a easy to maintain body, so I didn't struggle so much with being pleasing to other people's eye. But my dad always taught me that is a privilege, and it is something that you have to make sure that you recognize as a privilege, and that what is on the inside is just as important as what is on the outside. And so that was, one part of my life growing up, is that I always knew that character and who I was on the inside was so much more important than the attention that I would get on the outside. And my family, we were healthy, we were fit, we were active. I had an active family. So I feel like I didn't struggle so much with, I didn't have to work so hard, let's say, to be okay with how I looked. And I know that that's a privilege, and I'm grateful for that. I know that that's also not normal, and that doesn't resonate with everyone. And a lot of that changed when I had my daughter, and she got really sick when she was little, ended up with a terrible brain injury, which then ended up in brain surgery when she was 11. Wow. and was on heavy duty steroids, and going into middle school and puberty gained about 30 pounds in 1 year. So this tiny little fit, active daughter, suddenly everything shifted for her, and it was heartbreaking. And it was so hard as a mom. And it was also hard as a mom who's fit and who's healthy and didn't have to work that hard. And I entered into this phase of having to really dig in and understand what probably a lot of women and young girls go through. And at that time, I really have to give a lot of credit to her dad. We were separate. We didn't raise the children together, but we were great co-parents. And her dad always focused with her on knowing your worth and know who you are. That was their mantra: know who you are and know your worth. And through this really, really challenging time in her life, the mantra that she was told was know your worth and know who you are. And on my side, so that was what she got in Dad's house. And then when she would come to me, our focus was on health. Why do we care? We're not trying to be skinny. We don't need to look like everyone else, but we do need to be healthy. And how can we be healthy? We need to move our bodies, and we need to be careful of what we put into our bodies. So that was kind of my journey into maybe where we are today, and how I talk with young girls, how I talk with grown women, and where I am with my own body is that I focus on health. And I think my pillars of health for my children and for myself are how do we move our bodies, what we put in our bodies, and then in rest and recovery. But I think that my daughter was my learning. She taught me how to navigate those waters through body image.
This is literally the polar opposite of my own lived experience. Like I'm listening to the way that you prioritized health with your child. And, in my home, physical exercise was a punishment. It was like, if you were driving home, what'd you do today? Oh, we had to run around the track 5 times. Oh no, the coach made you run. Like, it's physical exercise is not something that's enjoyed. I don't want to say prioritize, but it just wasn't. It wasn't the center of our family pillars. And so as an adult, I continue to struggle with that, even though I married a natural athlete. I have to intentionally, because that's, I like to say that's how my egg is cooked. I know that's not necessarily clinical, and that's how my egg is cooked.
I like it.
For me, health and wellness is a deliberate intention. It's something I have to do. It's a necessary evil. It's never been something that I enjoy, and I'm so envious of individuals who enjoy it, who it comes naturally to, which leads me to my question to you. What are our teens today, Dr. Brandy, facing when it comes to body image that's fundamentally different from what we experienced growing up? And then later on, I want to touch on how our own stuff, when we are not only talking to ourselves, but talking to how that bleeds into our kids and how they will end up viewing. Okay, but first things first.
Good one.
Fundamentally different from what we experienced growing up. What are they dealing with?
Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but we kind of grew up with magazines.
Yes,
right?
we did.
Like, I was ready and waiting for that Teen Vogue.
Yes.
And was it CoverGirl and all the other
I did
ones,
like
right?
that one. Yeah.
Loved it,
I love
right?
that one.
Would go through it, then I'd put it down, and that was the end, right? Teens today, though, there is no putting it down. They have magazines, they have social media, they have now AI, where there are fake images that are being generated of what society will deem as these perfect, beautiful faces, and then the comparison online on social media is just rampant. It's everywhere. So I think the Dove Self-Esteem Project had mentioned 8 out of 10 girls, which I know about Dove. I know about Dove. But the research, something like 8 out of 10 girls had reported, or females had reported, that they have compared themselves to other people online. So like that comparison, those numbers are real. And for boys, I think it's like a third of males have body image issues. And I don't want to leave them out of the conversation, because while we talk about body image, it is primarily centered and focused around females, but males have it too. It just looks different. So we'll talk about, like, when people use the term scrawny, I hate that. I can't stand that. Like, oh, you're so scrawny, which, I heard growing up. Alex, you mentioned you were in track. Same. Was very thin.
Like, what do you mean? Like
so, like, just very thin, not very muscular. And so I was a tall girl and grew up in an area where not a lot of people look like me. I am also biracial. So I was the only one that had curly hair. Everyone else had very straight hair. So there was a bit of insecurity about what that what to do with it, right? Because I had no one that was, able to teach me and guide me in that way. But it just like using terminology like scrawny and ultra thin, and the guys want to be more muscular and bulk up and things like that. I don't want to leave them out of the conversation only because it happens to males too.
Mm-hmm.
So primarily it's focused on females, but males are also struggling with body image issues as well. And social media is not helping.
We just watched
At all.
a YouTube documentary about how unrealistic health images are impacting our boys,
Oh,
and
yeah.
how they actually compared images or movie clips of males who were considered, super sexy,
All
had
the
super sexy
Sylvester
bodies
Stallone, the Bruce Willis.
10 years ago. Oh,
Mhm.
yes, Bruce
Yeah,
Willis.
but I mean,
yes.
think about how they're being portrayed.
Like, so how they were portrayed 10 years ago,
Mhm.
15 years ago, to how they're being portrayed now. And it's so unrealistic. Like, these are
Mhm.
the types of bodies that you really have to lean out for. You really have to aggressively get into that shape. Actually, you know what? I remember Wolverine. They took
Oh.
clips of Wolverine from 20 years ago when this was his standard, to Wolverine in the last movie. Completely unrealistic, completely generated by AI. But now this is the standard that these boys are aspiring to. Okay, boys aside, we've got enough on our hand with the girls, Dr. Brandy. Where is the line between typical teenage insecurity and something more serious like body dysmorphic disorder? So we're not really touching, that clinical diagnosis today, but it's a real thing. How does a parent know the difference between this is normal, this is what they all go through, and this is a really serious issue, and I need to get my kid some help?
So a good rule of thumb, I mentioned just a moment ago about my curly hair, right? So the only one around me that had curly hair, didn't really know how to manage it. That's an insecurity. That's normal. An obsession where I'm hyper fixating on it, I'm constantly checking myself in the mirror, I'm, obsessively talking about different things that I want to change. Obsession is not. So insecurity is normal, obsession is not.
Okay.
When you find that your child is doing constant mirror checks, when they're not going to social outings with their friends, when they are refusing to take photographs, like simple family photos. No, I don't want to be in there. They're kind of covering themselves. That's a red flag. Those are all red flags. Because then it's sort of like, well, how often are you thinking about this? If it's what I'll tell parents is, if it's impacting your child's day to day, then you need to seek help. Then that's the time. You need to call a professional in.
I'm going to push back on this because obviously we have 29 on campus, and this is what's happening all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time, all the time. All the time. And then like you take a photograph and it's like, I want to filter that. Or, let me see it before you post it. I need to filter it. Or these horrible apps where they can actually adapt their cheekbones, adapt their
the face
Wild.
tune.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's so, is that normal? Or is that something that they need therapy for?
I mean, it's being normalized.
It's
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're all doing it these
Yeah.
days. When those apps came out, it didn't do them any service, right? I mean, and it doesn't help that the influencers that they're following are also doing it, or just the images that they see. So I'd say that again, if it comes down to constant obsessing over it, or they're not sharing themselves, or they're withdrawing a lot because it's like, no, I don't want to be a part of that, or no, I don't look good, and you constantly hear it, yeah, get your kid in to seek some help, to then talk about that and process what's really going on, because that could manifest into something far greater.
I actually asked my daughter this question last night, the difference between insecurity and body dysmorphia from her perspective. And I thought it was really great what she said. She said, well, I think body dysmorphia is when you hate everything about yourself. So whereas an insecurity is one thing, to your point, Dr. Brandy, my hair, I don't, my hair, I don't know what to do with my hair. I don't like this. But she said, I think that it becomes pathologic when it's everything. I don't like me. That's a difference than just my hair bothers me or I don't like my hips.
That's a really good perspective.
Which is why it's so important with how we talk about ourselves in front of our children.
Thank you.
Right? Because when we talk about ourselves in a not kind way, our children pick up on that.
Yes.
And it's not just about ourselves too, it's about the characters that they see on TV. So for instance, if there's a character that your child identifies with and they happen to have like pink hair, right? Let's say there's like an anime character, some show that they love and beautiful pink hair, and you're just criticizing and judging like, oh, pink hair looks terrible. Like that's so ugly. Who would do that? but your little girl
Yeah.
behind you has pink hair and she loved that inspiration she got from that character. What do you think she's internalizing from that? And same thing for men, right? So be careful about how you talk about yourself and be careful about
For
how you
sure.
talk about their characters and their interest. And, you know, same thing when you're standing in the mirror. I think we had touched on this in a previous one, and it always just, you really want to drive it home. Imagine a mother standing in front of a mirror and she's just picking at her face like, oh, I hate my nose, and oh, my ears are too big, and why does my chin look like this? But the daughter behind the door is constantly being told like, oh, you look so much like your mother. You're just like your mother.
Yeah.
But wait a second. Mom doesn't like her chin. Mom says that she's fat.
Does
Am
she not
I
like
fat?
me? Yeah.
Right. Does she not like me? Am I also, are these ugly things about me too? And it's a painful, painful experience to watch. So be careful about how you talk about yourself.
And I think that's huge, especially for moms, because
Oh,
women
yeah.
in general, we are critical of ourselves, full stop, period.
Constantly.
We can be in our best shape ever, and we're still going to find something to pick on about ourselves. And our daughters, and our sons, our children, our nieces, our nephews, they hear that.
They're listening to
They hear that.
everything.
Yeah, that's like the one thing I do with my girls every single day is we recite affirmations on our way to school.
I love that.
Because affirmations, and I keep them up all around the house, and I keep one up until I actually believe it about myself. Because there are times where it's like, okay, you can read something and you might not genuinely believe it in that moment. So I keep it up until I actually believe it about myself. And then in the car, on our way to school, we talk about courage and confidence and being a leader. And another way I try to honor their confidence is just by validating the messages of like our intuition. So if they're tugging on their clothes, or if they're like pulling something down, or if they put on something that's like a little bit too small and it's clear that their body's uncomfortable wearing it, I'll ask them, hey babe, are you comfortable in that outfit? Because it looks like your body's showing you a message. Let's honor those messages. Or if they put on an outfit that's like mixing styles and maybe something that I wouldn't prefer them to wear, but they're wearing it, they're rocking it. So I'm like, you look amazing.
Yes.
You know, because I'm just trying to give them confidence in their own ability to make those choices for themselves.
Yeah.
And if they like it, I love it.
We
It's a good
had,
message.
this is not a parenting story. It's not my child, but she was my child. She was on campus. And I had a moment because I was raised by a single mom who hates everything about herself. And so her self-speak bled into my own perception of my own. So this is a theme in our, I'm trying to say that as delicately as I can, because the whole world hears this. And this little girl's overweight. She's about 15 years old. And she came into my office, this is probably 5 years ago, feeling herself. Man, she was decked out in a pair of pants that were too small, a belt that was cinching up. It was not a flattering outfit at all. It was highlighting her roles, for lack of a, just gonna say it. I'm not known for not being candid. It was highlighting all the roles. It was highlighting everything. And I said, oh, honey, you should really untuck that shirt and it will drape better on your body. It'll be more, I didn't say flattering for your image, but that's what I was trying to say. And her face just completely, and I realized in that moment, fell, like her face completely, just all of the energy drained from her. It was just like this. I was watching her deflate. And I thought, oh my gosh, I just did that to her. I just did that to her. My own issues with people seeing my roles hanging out, like, wear the Spanx girl, keep it all in, keep it tight. My own issues. She felt beautiful when she walked into my office. And when she left my office, she felt fat. And it was because I did that to her. My own stuff. I vomited it right on her. And I, how do you recover from that? Which it's okay. Go ahead. I know you got all kinds of things to say. You got all, but I did that to her, and I never forgot that moment. And because
Yeah.
it was it was a teachable
It was
moment
a
for me.
lesson.
But, yeah.
It was a lesson. I think it's important in moments like that to come back to the table and say and recognize, listen, I've had struggles with my own body through the years, right? And I don't want that for you. So let's talk through. I mean, I'm not saying you have to go back and divulge your entire family history and how you got to that point to this particular young lady, but be transparent and be honest, right? Be genuine and just say, I've struggled with, my own body image for many years and this way and that way, and this is how I've been trying to work through it. And I certainly didn't mean to say these things to leave this impression or make you feel any different, because you are beautiful. You are. And your style is, whether it's eclectic or you're mix and matching different things, that's beautiful because you think it's beautiful and you're confident in that. So just coming back to do a little bit of repair and just being genuine and authentic with them and letting them know you're human too.
Yes.
Right?
And
We've all
if you are
struggled.
human just like me and you struggle with constantly saying the wrong thing.
I did, in full transparency, I did that to my daughter, and we still talk about it. There was a
Oh.
time, and she still remembers that. But we talk about it, and we've worked through it. And on the flip side to that, something she told me last night was really special. She has a very different body style than mine. She's very curvy, and I think of her, I could see her in like the Victorian era, being somebody painting her beautiful curvy body, and she's got long flowing hair and milky white skin. And I said to her, you look like a painting from a different era, and I want to show you what you would look like then, because it's different than what people idolize now.
Oh, that's a neat idea.
Yeah, and it was I'm so glad she told me that, because I remember that conversation with her, but I didn't know how impactful that was. So two different tones, right?
Yeah.
We've worked through the one, but last night she shared that with me, that was something that meant so much to her and helped her so much, because she saw herself in a different light, in a different time. And that at that time, her curves and everything about her and her hips and how she lays, and she's just, to me, she's a Victorian. She just looks like a Victorian
She would have been
model.
celebrated.
She would have
They
been.
would have carved statues
And
of
that
her.
little moment with her stuck with her from, this was a couple years ago, and gave her so much confidence.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't know what to say, who don't know how to handle their child's body image. So what we've done is we've created a free download of things to say, things not to say. I was in charge of the things not to say. It's not perfect, but it's a starting point. So go to the episode notes. It's a free download for you. And while you're there, please subscribe, because it helps us create more content just like this. But back to you guys. You said your home was focused on health instead of appearance. What did that actually look like day to day when you were raising your daughter through the hardest seasons of her self-image?
It looked like a lot of work for me
I bet.
because I get up at 5 a.m. and exercise. So when she, at the end of the day, she was not going to move her body on her own. She did not have the energy, the motivation. She didn't feel good about herself. She would never just go to the gym or do anything on her own. So let's go take a walk. I'll go to the gym. Do you want to go walk with me? I think it would be good for us to move our body. Have you moved your body today? Not really. Let's go for a walk. And so we would I had to do the things with her, which is a lot of work on a busy parent.
Yes.
That's number one. And then number two, from the time I was that annoying mom who like made the baby food and
Yeah.
packed the lunches with chickpeas and
I was too.
Yeah. So at home, at least that hurt. That was at least there was modeling that happened at home. We did eat. I provided healthy choices. I also didn't restrict. If there's something that you want and you really want it, that's fine. But we just know what you're doing. Be aware. So it was a lot of togetherness on the health focused things. I had to do the walking with her, and I did not want to.
But
I had
how
to
do you
it.
do that without making her feel like there's something about her that needs to be fixed?
Because it was for health, because moving our body is healthy, whether you're skinny or whether you aren't skinny, whether you are in between. We have to move our bodies. Just everybody, every human. We're made to move.
That speaks to wellness, right?
Yeah.
So habit over outcome.
Yeah.
If we're having healthy habits like they're describing, then that will lead to better lifestyle choices later on. And it's not about, I'll look good. It's I'll feel good.
Yeah.
Like I will just naturally feel good moving my body or making healthy choices about, removing some of the toxicity from the home and my products that I use. So habit over outcomes would be kind of what I
Yeah.
suggest in
that.
homes like.
Changing the narrative for me is huge, because as a health coach, where people come to me primarily wanting to lose weight, and my goal for them is really to have them come up with their own definition of health, because health means something different to everybody. And with my kids, there's a much different download when I say, hey, we're going to eat our protein and our fiber and our complex carbs because that's what builds strong bodies, strong minds. That's what keeps our mood happy, as opposed to we're going to eat fish because it keeps us skinny, vegetables because they're good for us, and we're not eating any sugar. Like, there's just a completely different way where
Language.
if you're, the language is if it's more uplifting and it's more empowering, and it's like, if you are going to be a strong human when you make these choices. And that's the narrative in our house.
That was exactly, that was the narrative also. We need strong bodies. We need to, and health.
Strong bodies, strong minds.
Strong bodies,
So
strong minds.
last question. What is the best response when your kid says, I hate the way you look. I hate myself. I hate my butt. I hate my hair. I hate. We tend to say, you're beautiful. There's got to be a better response than that.
So, okay. Instead of saying things like, you're not fat. Because when you say that, what are you really saying? That fat is terrible, horrible. You're implying that, right? Instead of saying, oh, you'll be fine, you look great, it'll be okay, that's a bit dismissive of their feelings. So I say to anyone that has a kid that comes to them and just says, oh, I hate the way I look, and don't counter it with, you're beautiful. Do validation and then reassurance, right? So validate, you don't have to love the way you look every day. Reassure.
Like that.
But I want to help you feel your best overall. Validate before you reassure. Validate what they're feeling in that moment. Because if they're not feeling great, it's not going to help when mom, dad, caregiver, whoever comes in and it's like, oh, but you're great, you're fine, you'll be all right.
Because your mom,
Okay,
they know you
because
love
you're-
them. And
right.
like, that doesn't
And
matter.
that's
It
the
goes over their
response,
heads.
right?
Your
You
mom, of
have
course
to
you love me and you
say
think I'm
that.
beautiful.
Exactly. You have to say that because you're my parent.
Yes. That's what my daughter said also.
Yeah.
She said, I think, because I asked her all of these questions because I think that at 21 years old and being on a different side of where we are now, and she went through a really rough time, and now she's just so happy in her space, and I love that for her. But she also said, relate. Say, you know what? I also felt like that sometimes when I was young. It was really hard for me when I was young too. So instead of dismissing, relate, and maybe tell a part of your story that they can relate to, and then validate that they're feeling that way.
To your point, and I'm sure you relate to this, is with curly hair, biracial, curly hair, textured hair. In my house, honestly, that's why I cut my hair off, because I have 3 heads of hair that I have to do.
It's a lot.
And
It's a lot of hair.
My firstborn has more hair than everybody at this table on one head, and then my second has a lot of hair as well. But Araya, my first, she's 5, almost 5, and sometimes she'll come home and she'll like, Mommy, I want an Elsa braid. Or, Mommy, why does my hair take so long to do? Why can't it just be like straight and flowing? And I sit down, because I remember those days, like wanting to have straight hair. And why do I have, like, at the end of the day, why is my hair frizzy? And I sit there with her and I'm like, I understand how you feel, because I went through the same things. And there's going to be one day where you are going to love your hair. And you're going to know how to do so many different things with your hair. And you're going to have gorgeous, healthy hair because I'm helping you take care of it. And together we're going to get through this. And we can experiment and we can come up with ways that you feel comfortable with. And so now we get her hair braided and she picks her beads. And I just find other ways to make her feel special. And I just also reaffirm that she's always going to look different, And different is, and maybe the best word isn't different, but she's always going to be unique in her own way because she has different hair.
Well, I like the idea of, like, instead of an Elsa braid, let's do an Araya braid.
Yeah,
Because an
that's
Araya
cool.
braid,
That's good.
an Araya braid just looks beautiful on you, and it's unique to you. So I love that.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And she will come back and she'll be like, I have an Araya braid.
Yeah.
That's cute. I like that.
I love that.
She will. I love this conversation. I love you all. Thank you so much for coming today and for sharing part of your life with us. If today's episode resonated with you, if it gave you something to think about, share it with someone else who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing really helps us create more content. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you next time on This Is Now Parenting Teens Today.
Thank you.